Appendix 1.3 Vendidad Fargard 5. 1. A man dies there in the depths of the valleys. Thereupon a bird flies aloft from the summits of the hills into the depths of the valleys. It feeds upon the body of the dead man. Then the bird flies aloft from the depths of the valleys to the summits of the hills. It flies on to a tree, either of the hard or of the soft kinds. It, the nasush, dead matter, is vomited on it, is voided on it, is dropped on it. 2. A man goes forth there, from the depths of the valleys to the summits of the hills. He goes up to the tree where that bird was. He wants faggots, stick bundles, for the fire. He fells it, he hews it, he splits it. The additional words, da yata, da itya, ha irishta, it was kept lawfully inspected, appear to be merely an Avesta quotation in the Pothavi translation. This inspection is afterwards more fully noticed in the long Pothavi commentary to verse 4, where it is stated that firewood must be rejected if contaminated with dead matter, or if decayed, are from a gallows, are mixed with grease, are polluted by a menstruous woman, except in case of death or distress. The burning of such firewood is a tanapuhar sin, but burning greasy wood is a mortal sin. He kindles it in the fire, the offspring of Ahuramazda. What is the punishment for this? 3. Then said Ahuramazda, no dead matter, nasush, brought by a dog, none brought by a bird, none brought by a wolf, none brought by the wind, none brought by a fly, pollutes a man. If indeed the dead matters, which are brought by a dog, and brought by a bird, and brought by a wolf, and brought by the wind, and brought by a fly, are the dead matter which would be polluting a man, speedily my whole material world would overthrow its essential righteousness or regularity, and be stressing the soul and ruining the body through the multitude of these dead matters which have perished upon this earth. Creator of the settlements, supplied with creatures, righteous one. They really should say etc. as in 3:1. A man pours water onto a cornfield, something with kernels, not. He shall go into the water channel, in the Pothavi Jo'i Veridilet, through it, into it a second time, into it a third time, and after the fourth time, they drag dead matter in, be they dog or fox or wolf. What is the punishment for this? 6. And said Ahuramazda, and so on is in verse 3. If indeed the dead matters, and so on is in verse 4. Crater, and so on as in verse 3:1. Does the water destroy a man? Then said Ahuramazda, the water does not destroy a man. Asto Yudotu binds him. The flying demon Vayo conveys him bound. The water carries him up, the water carries him down, the water casts him away. The birds, Vayo, then devour him. There he then proceeds through fate. He then departs. There, that is to the other world, the Pothavi version has, when he sets out back from hence, that is, shall come, fate will convey him back, that is, she is in the leading path, when he shall come. Vayo,
Yae Saritar, the evil Vidya in the Pahlavi version. This is the Vatar of the Ma'inyo card, 215, where he is one of the demons who oppose the soul's progress towards heaven. As in verse 4, the Pahlavi commentary on the passage states, it is declared by the Avesta, the dry channel of a rivulet, Jo'i, Kushuk, Vuru, the Persian Buru, is to be inspected for dead matter, Yazeh, Fasen, Mons Deyasna, Zam, Ra'u, Bayen. If the Mazdayastians wish, they may irrigate the land. It then proceeds to say that a man, before admitting the water, must descend 3 times into the channel and inspect it carefully to see that it is free from impurity, and after a 4th inspection he may allow the water to enter. Further provisions are made in case of the inspection being impracticable, and as to the merit acquired by diverting the water from any impurity in its way. Most of this commentary is omitted in Spiegel's edition of the Pahlavi text, but will be found in the old manuscripts at the India Office Library in London, mentioned in page 95, and we are on page 323. And the Pahlavi Jo'i is the rivulet I already mentioned with the Va'avim channel. 9, crater and so on, as in 3.1, does the fire destroy a man? Then, said Ahura Mazda, the fire does not destroy a man. Asto Vidhoto binds him. The flying demon, Vayo, conveys him bound. The fire consumes the bones and vitality. There then proceeds through fate. He then departs. The Pahlavi version has, that is when, as some say, the good Vaya will ever receive him. This refers to Va'eve of the Ma'inyo card, 215, where he is one of the angels who assist the soul's progress to heaven. He is identical with the angel Ram, the Vayu of the Ram Yasht. See page 214, we're on page 324. The Pahlavi commentary on this passage is, worldly benefits are acquired through fate, spiritual through action. Some say that wife, child, wealth, authority, and life are through fate, the rest through action. The happiness which is not destined for a man, he never attains to. This is evident from the passage beginning, Ga'ere maso anho etahe, thou mightest be mountain-sized of this, that which is destined for him and which will come before him through exertion is Anyo, Aredvo, Zengo, Areno, the other persistent glory, and it was through his sinfulness, when trouble happens to him, Aad, Areno, Frapa Iryaete, then glory delivers, and the misfortune destined for him he is able to avert by proper exertion, Po'uru, Varanaho, Ashava, Zarathustra, full of glory he is righteous Zarathustra, and his sinfulness over anew destines it, misfortune for him, Aeshamcha, Naram, and of these men, these people, one man, when through the destiny of another man, it was necessary for him, died, when through the destiny of that dead one, it was still improper. But he, the first one, was able to do it, so that through the slaying of that innocent one, justice, Radhi, should well deal with his quarrel. This commentary is a fair specimen of the mode in which Avesta quotations are used in the Pahlavi version of the Vendidad. In the above quotations, the word Arena, glory, brilliance, is probably used for Wakta, fate, destiny, which would obviously be more appropriate in meaning. Both these words would be equivalent to the same Zvarish logogram Godman, and this fact might lead to the one word being substituted for the other, provided we assume that the Avesta quotations had been at one time written in Pahlavi. 10. Creator and so on is in 3.1. They pass out of summer. Then in winter, how should they act? They who were Mazdayastians. Then said Ahura Mazda, in every dwelling, in every neighborhood, they shall erect 3 katas, any one when dead. While this Pahlavi manuscript had merely man, vis, kanak, kaduk, das, kado, explaining man by kanak, the house, and vis by daste, kado, group, or huts. 11. Crater and so on is in 3.1. How large are these katas for anyone when dead? Then said Ahura Mazda, so that he may not strike his head against the upper part, nor at the further end with the feet, nor across with the hands. Verily this is a lawful kata for anyone when dead. The Pahlavi manuscript version has so much as when standing at is living, the head strikes not against the limits of the hand, nor when the foot is forth, that is, when the foot is extended, nor when the hand is unmoved, that is, his hand is held back. 12.
There shall they deposit his lifeless body for 2 nights, or 3 nights, or a month long, until the time when the birds shall fly forth, the plants shall shoot out, the descending floods shall run off, and the wind shall dry up the ground. What are the lying low are directed downwards, as implied by the word nia uncho, must be guessed from the context, and floods, streams, icicles, and snow might be suggested. The Pahlavi equivalent of nia uncho is ambiguous, even in the old manuscript, and may be read either vasha in guni, a clearing off, an open sky, or nish yin guni, solidification, nishu yin guni, congealation. The latter may be preferred, as the Pahlavi translator adds, the adversary of winter shall depart, but in these readings are too irregular and foreign to be relied upon. Well, we could say, leave it a year and then come back and check if, there's room to do such, of course. 13. Then when, thus, the birds shall fly forth, the plants shall shoot out, the descending floods shall run off, and the wind shall dry up the ground, the Mazdayastians should now set his body, viewing the sun. 14. If the Mazdayastians should not set this body, viewing the sun, for the length of a year, thou shalt order as much punishment as for murdering a righteous man, O Zoroastrian, in order that the corpses be attended to, the dakmas attended to, the impurities attended to, and the birds gorged. The term hikra, impurity, is applied to any bodily refuse or excretion from mankind or dogs, including saliva, skin, hair, nail parings, etc. In this passage, it appears to refer to the exudations from a corpse, which is why in all reality burying it is probably the best thing, because that gets processed with earth. 15. Crater, and so on, as in verse 1 of 3. Wilt thou, who art Ahura Mazda, release the water from the sea for Urukasha, together with the wind and clouds? 16. Wilt thou convey it to a corpse? Thou who art Ahura Mazda, wilt thou convey it unto a dogma? Thou who art Ahura Mazda, wilt thou convey it unto impurity? Thou who art Ahura Mazda, wilt thou pour it forth on a bone? Thou who art Ahura Mazda, wilt thou conduct it forth unnoticed? Thou who art Ahura Mazda, with those impurities, wilt thou conduct it forth to the sea? Pu Ithaca. 17. Then said Ahura Mazda, Verily it is so, O Zarathustra, as thou sayest, O upright one. I who am Ahura Mazda will release the water from the sea Urukasha together with the wind and clouds. 18. I will convey it to a corpse. I who am Ahura Mazda. I will convey it onto a Dakma. I who am Ahura Mazda. I will convey it onto impurity. I who am Ahura Mazda. I will pour it forth on a bone. I who am Ahura Mazda. I will conduct it forth unnoticed. I who am Ahura Mazda. With those impurities, I will conduct it forth to the sea Puitika. 19. There exist streaming currents in the inner part of the sea for purifying, and the waters flow from the sea Puitika to the sea Paurukasha, to the tree Havapa. Here grow all my trees of every kind. Streaming currents are perhaps splashing waves. The Pahlavi translation is obscure, but seems to say they remain in a water skin of Ka'ik, Persian Kik, and bucket, Dula, kept full. But Urukasha, the Pahlavi version adds, towards the southernmost side, and it, the water, stays behind in mist, Pavan here, are Kir, and the blue, Kavud body of the sea, Sata Vaesa, stays behind around it. Puitika stands away from the shore of Sata Vaesa. This is a fact, but from which shore it stands away is not clear to me. The water comes to Sata Vaesa through the bottom, Pek. Some say that it traverses a fissure, Kafak. Havapa, the Pahlavi version adds, a Farg says that the root of a tree, Medokma says a forest. Here grow all my trees of every kind. Some manuscripts add the Avesta by hundreds, by thousands, by myriads of myriads, and the Pahlavi version adds among species, Chaete, Hente, Urvar Anam, Sarada. How many are the kinds of trees? That is the principal species. Either a list of species is omitted, or Chaete here merely means many, as the Pahlavi Chand often does. 20. I rain these down together. That is both waters and plants. The Pahlavi commentary ascribes this to Tishtar, according to the latter tradition. Thus, he who is Tishtar takes the water, that they may take it in the wells of waters it comes to. I who am Ahura Mazda, both as food for the righteous man and fodder for the well-yielding ox, man shall eat my corn, kernels, and fodder is for the well-yielding ox. 21. This is better, this is more excellent than thou, upright one, sayest. By this speech, the righteous Ahura Mazda rejoiced him. The righteous Zarathustra, mayest thou purify for man the best things for procreation. This is a quotation from the Spenta Ma'inu Gatha, yes, 48.5, which continues as follows: For the ox mayest thou nourish that of the laboring for our food. It forms part of an address to Armaite, the spirit of the earth. The disconnected phrases which follow are probably also texts quoted from the scriptures, are representing the scriptures, right? This, which is the Mosaician religion, is pure, O Zarathustra, he who purifies himself by good thoughts and good words and good deeds. The Pahlavi version adds the note that Anhavam, life, self, and Da and Nam, intuition, religion, self, are both the same. 22. Crater and so on, as in 3.1. How much greater, better, and more excellent is this Zarathustrian provision against the Devas above the other traditions
in greatness and goodness and excellence. The Vendidad, which is a corruption of Vidaevo datem. See page 225. We're in 327. I would just say we're just using different languages here. 23. Then said Ahura verily one may consider, O Spitma Zarathustra, this Zarathustrian provision against the Devas above other traditions in greatness and goodness and excellence, as the sea Vaurukasha is above the other waters. 24. Verily one may consider, and so on, as in verse 23, as the greater water overpowers the lesser waters. The Pahlavi version has, as the great water, when it advances upon the little water, bears it away when it falls into the Chitta, perhaps equivalent to Cha, a pit. Verily one may consider, and so on, as in verse 23, as the greater tree overshadows the lesser trees. 25. Verily one may consider, and so on, as in verse 23, as it has been both on and around this earth. The Pahlavi version has... let's start with this thing about the lesser trees. The Pahlavi adds an obscure phrase which may perhaps be in the old manuscript. Sarvan Malka Ab Ake Zakae, the king of cypresses, is one growing in a marsh. So, around the earth. The Pahlavi version in an old manuscript has, as it will travel, Bara Bamened, to this earth and over the sky, that is ever in all places. Then follows a commentary, which seems to refer to the succeeding sentence. Thus, some say this about Nasush, and that in the 8th Fargard about decision and judgment is that in the Husparum, Nosk, about the formula Nirang of worship. There is evidently a change of subject here. I will continue with 25. Let the judge, Ratu, be nominated. Let the executor of the sentence, Sra Usha Vareza, be nominated on a Draona, consecrated cake, being uplifted or not uplifted, on a Draona being offered or not offered, on a Draona being delivered or not delivered. The Pahlavi commentaries on this passage are: the Dastur considers the Sra Usha Vareza accuses of a sin, and with reference probably to the offender, the Dastur considers what was in his thoughts, but not committed, and not in his thoughts but committed. What was promised him was not brought, and not promised was brought. What was his intention but not performed, and unintended but performed. This, however, throws little light into the obscurity of the Avesta text. 26. Afterwards, this judge is able to remit for him a third of this punishment, and if other wicked deeds were perpetuated by him, his atonement is through patita, renunciation of sin. Moreover, if other wicked deeds were not perpetuated by him, the patita of that man is completed forever and ever. This passage has occurred also in 321, and perhaps his punishment is abandoned, might be substituted for his atonement is through patita, and acquittal be read instead of the second patita. The drift of the sentences being that no offender can be tried or punished for an older offense than the one for which he has been already condemned. The Pahlavi version adds, that is, when the Dastur considers and deplores the sin, and they shall perform good works uncomplainingly, it will be allowable for the judge, Ratu, example, Dastur, to remit 1/3 of the soul's sin that is declared, where the decision is among the judges, as in the cause of appeal or joint decisions, not the judge's own. When it shall be the judge's own, it will be allowable to remit the whole of it. 27. Creator, and so on, as in 3.1. When men happen to be in the same place, on a rug together, or on a mat together, and others are on it, there may be 2 men, or 5, or 50, or 100, and the same of women, and then one of these men shall die. How many among the men does this Druksh, Nasush, the destroyer corruption, reach with impurity and rottenness and filth? The Pathami version misinterprets ham, na ivranam, by in fellowship and in contact. The same woman, fellowship and contact. Okay. 28. Then said Ahura Mazda, if he be a priest who dies, verily, Ospitma Zarathustra, this Druksh, Nasush, rushes forth. If she reaches the 11th, she pollutes indirectly to the 10th. If, however, he be a warrior, verily, Ospitma Zarathustra, this Druksh, Nasush, rushes forth. If she reaches the 10th, she pollutes indirectly to the 9th. If, however, he be a husbandman, verily, Ospitma Zarathustra, this Druksh, Nasush, reaches forth. If she reaches the 9th, she pollutes indirectly to the 8th. Moreover, if it be a shepherd's dog, Hasush, Ha'urva, verily, and so on, as in verse 28. If she reaches the 8th, she pollutes indirectly to the 7th. If, however, it be a house dog, Vish Ha'urva, verily, and so on, as in verse 28. If she reaches the 7th, she pollutes indirectly to the 6th. 30. If, however, bloodhound, Vohun Azga, verily, and so on, as in verse 28. If she reaches the 6th, she pollutes indirectly to the 5th. If, however, it be a young Ta Uruna dog, verily, and so on, as in verse 28. If she reaches the 5th, she pollutes indirectly to the 4th. If, however, it be a Sukuruna dog, verily, and so on, as in verse 28. If she reaches the 4th, she pollutes indirectly to the 3rd. What description of dog or animal is meant by this epithet, or any of the 3 succeeding, is quite uncertain. The Pathali version merely transcribes the Avesta words and knows that the last 3 are not intelligible. If, however, it be a Jatso dog, verily, and so on, as in verse 28. If she reaches the 3rd, she pollutes indirectly to the 2nd. 32. If it be an a Wizzo dog, Wizzo dog, verily, and so on, as in verse 28. If she reaches the 2nd, she pollutes indirectly the 1st. If, however, it be a Vizu dog, verily, and so on, as in verse 28. If she reaches the 1st, she pollutes indirectly the 1st. 33. Creator, and so on, as in 3.1. If, however, the dog be a fox, Urupe, how many of the creatures of the beneficent spirit does the dog, which is a fox, pollute directly? How many does it pollute indirectly? Ham Ra'eth Waya'ete means that it contaminates or communicates contagion by direct contact, and Pa'ete Ra'eth Waya'ete means that it infects or spreads infection through an intermediate person or contact. 34. Then said Ahura Mazda, this dog, which is a fox, does not pollute directly any of the creatures of the beneficent spirit, nor does it pollute indirectly any other than he that smites and kills it. To him it adheres forever and ever. 35. Creator, and so on, as in 3.1. Moreover, if he who dies be a miscreant, a 2-legged unbeliever, Drva'o, or 2-legged unbelieving serpent, as an unrighteous apostate is, How many of the creatures of the beneficent spirit does he pollute directly? Or how many does he pollute indirectly? Then said Ahura Mazda, like any toad, strictly speaking, Vazaga is a poisonous lizard, dried up and over a year dead, for living Ospitva, Zarathustra, a miscreant, a two-legged unbeliever, as an unrighteous apostate is, pollutes directly any of the creatures of the beneficent spirit. Living, he pollutes them indirectly. 37. Living it, the toad spoils the water. Living it, quenches the fire. Living it, drives the cattle mad. Living it, strikes the righteous man. A blow depriving of consciousness and cutting off life. Not so when dead. 38. So living Ospitaba Zarathustra, a miscreant, a two-legged unbeliever, as an unrighteous apostate is, plunders the righteous man of a profusion, of food and clothing and wood and carpet and iron. Not so when dead. Profusion, the word unheush of the world, although it would suit the sense well enough, appears to be a corruption since the time of the Pahlavi translation. Some manuscripts have hanhush, others have hanheush, and the Pahlavi version translates the word by asari. Endlessness, sar, head, is always applied to the end in Pahlavi, boon, root, origin, being the beginning. In Yasna 53:4, hanhush is translated in Pahlavi by sari, repletion, which is an approximation to the meaning of asari, while neither word can be used for world. In the Pahlavi, Namad, Persian, Namad, for carpet. 39, creator, and so on as in 3:1. When we bring together, O righteous Ahura Mazda, in the dwellings in this material world, the fire and barsom and cups and homa and mortar, and afterwards either a dog or a man of this dwelling shall die, how should they act, they who are Mazdayastians? 40. Then said Ahura Mazda, off from these dwellings, O Spitama Zarathustra, they should carry the fire and barsom and cups, and homa and mortar, off from them the dead one. They may think of it as the lawful man that is both brought to the lawful place and devoured, alluding both to the dead body being taken to the dokma and devoured by birds, and also to the homa juice, considered as a creature to be consumed by a righteous man in the consecrated place. Well, as far as the medicinal use, it's important to involve your spirituality in that, right? 41, creator, and so on, as in 3:1. How should these Mazdayastians bring the fire back again to this dwelling where the man has died? Then said Ahura Mazda, 9 nights should they who are Mazdayastians hesitate in winter, but in summer a month long. Afterwards these Mazdayastians may bring the fire back again to this dwelling where the man has died. 43, crater and so on is in 3:1. And if these Mazdayastians should bring the fire back again to this dwelling where the man has died, within the space of the 9 nights, or within the space of the month long, what is the punishment for this? 44. Then said Ahura Mazda, one may inflict on the vitiated body of such a one 200 blows with a horse goad, 200 with a scourge. 45. Crater and so on as in 3:1. When in this Mazdayastian dwelling a woman shall go with child for 1 month, or 2 months, or 3 months, or 4 months, or 5 months, or 6 months, or 7 months, or 8 months, or 9 months, or 10 months, and then this woman shall be delivered in childbirth of something lifeless. How should they act, they who are Mazdayastians? (46 to 48). Then said
Ahura Mazda. Where there is in this Mazdiastian dwelling, especially the most ground fit for the purification ceremony, and the most dry land, and so on, as in 3:15 to 17, 49, there the Mazdiastians should enclose for her an enclosure of this earth. Then for victuals, they who are Mazdiastians shall provide. Then for clothes, they who are Mazdiastians shall provide. 50, creator and so on, as in 3:1. What food should this woman first eat? 51. Then said Ahura Mazda, ashes with bull's urine, 3 draughts, or else 6, or else 9. These she should pour by drinking on the receptacle of the dead within the effusing womb. Now, I'm not advocating eating random ashes or urine, or, well, this is specific, but, you know, I'm not making a medical statement by this. So understood by the Pathali translator and the modern Parsis to drink it, but the Avesta may perhaps refer here rather to outward purification, preparatory to drinking the milk, than to drinking itself. 52. Then, afterwards, she may swallow some of the warm milk of mares and cows and sheep and goats, of the fruits with rind and without rind, and cooked meat undiluted, and true corn undiluted, and honey undiluted. So, something with grain, right? 54. Then said Ahura Mazda, 3 nights they should hesitate. 3 nights does she remain in seclusion, eating meat, and corn, kernels, and honey. Then, moreover, after the 3 nights, she should wash over her body, freed from clothing, with the bull's urine and water, on the 9 stones, Maga, so they should purify her. 55. Crater and so on is in 3:1. How long should they hesitate? How long does she remain in seclusion after the 3 nights, in a separate place, with separate food, with separate clothing, apart from the other Mazdiastians? 56. Then said Ahura Mazda, 9 nights they should hesitate. 9 nights does she remain in seclusion after the 3 nights, in a separate place, with separate food, with separate clothing, apart from the other Mazdiastians. Then, moreover, after the 9 nights, she should wash, and so on, as in verse 54. 57. Creator and so on, as in 3:1. Are those clothes set apart after the purifying and washing for the Zaota, or for the Havanan, or for the Atarevaksha, or for the Frabaretar, or for the Abereta, or for the Asnatar, or for the Ra'eth Wishkara, or for the Srausha Varesa, or for the priest, who is a man, or for the warrior, or for the husbandman. These appear to be the names of 8 officiating priests in the ceremonies of ancient times, of whom only 2 are now employed, the Zaota, who is the chief officiating priest, and his assistant, the Rathwe, who takes the place of the remaining 7. These 7 are now considered as spirits, who are summoned by the Zaota when beginning to recite Visprad 3 after finishing Yasna 11, and the Rathwe answers in the name of each as he stands successively in the proper places. According to the diagram given in some manuscripts, the Zaota's station being near the northern end of the Arvisga, or ceremonial space. As he looks southwards toward the fire, he has one of the spiritual priests facing him from beyond the fire, and a line of 3 of them stationed along each side of the Arvisga. The stations of the 8 priests, the real and ideal, are as follows: 1. Zaota on the north side, 2.
Havanan at the northwest corner. 3. Taravaksha at the southwest corner. 4. Bharatar at the northeast corner. 5. Abareta at the southeast corner. 6. Asnatar on the west side. 7. Wishkara on the east side. 8. Strausha Vareza on the south side. From the word Mashya'e, mortal man, being put in opposition with Atharune, the general term for priest, which follows the enumeration of the officiating individuals in the text. It may be suspected that these latter were not considered as mortals, even at the time this text was written. You should have given meaning in the note, right? For the priest is man, for the warrior, that's man. 58. Then said Ahura Mazda, those clothes set apart after purifying and washing are not for the Zaota, and so on, as in verse 57, but substituting everywhere not for are. The meaning is that such clothes cannot be used by any respectable person, but only by the very lowest classes. Well, obviously the people who are in straits economically can do what they need to do to survive. 59. When in this Mazdayasnian dwelling there shall be a menstruous woman, or when there is a place marked by defloration and stained by intercourse, here she remains in it, and a rug and mat should cover her up, also always so that she may frequently put out her hands together. For I, verse 60, for I who am Ahura Mazda, allow no defiling of unused clothes, not the size of an aspirina, not even so much as the infinitesimal quantity this damsel would defile. What is an immeasurably small and indivisible atom? The word is avimam, not avimam, and aspirina is a dirham. Well, the little impurities add up, so you don't say, I'm going to just a little bit and a little bit here, and 61. And if these Mazdayasnians should cast over the dead an infinitesimal quantity, such as the infinitesimal quantity this damsel would defile, none of them living shall be righteous, none of them dead has a share in the best existence, paradise. 62. He shall have that life of the wicked, which is gloomy. Their own deeds, through their own tradition, shall depart that life for the worst existence, hell. And remember, the ashes and the urine are rinsed off as part of the purification ceremonies. As a rule, infinitesimal is what books like the Devil's Quran and stuff like that talk about. You get evolutions and all that stuff, but you just have a little drop of urine on purpose, or a little bit of blood or ash, or I forget exactly what it says, but just of it. But those who are doing this, they're obviously, it's not, oh, it's a little bit of wickedness. It's wickedness.